welcome to our program Lieutenant General retired William G. Jerry Boykin, serves as Executive Vice President of the Family Research Council now, and he joins us on the program. General Boykin, Tim and Ed here. Thanks for being with us today.
I'm delighted to be with you guys. Thanks.
You keeping Tony Perkins in line there?
I don't think it's fair for you to ask me a question like that on live radio.
Well, this is a gotcha. This is a gotcha interview. So
this is you understand military.
I've been in a few ambushes.
Yeah, I just ambushed him with that question. Of course, Tony Perkins, President of the Family Research Council, is on our American Family Radio Network every day. Hey, you wrote a column which got my attention about women in combat. Talk about that issue, if you will.
Well, I think that, first of all, we need to frame the issue correctly. Women are in combat and have been for well over a decade. There are no linear battlefields anymore, and therefore there are no rear areas where women are protected. So they've been in combat, and they've distinguished themselves, and they've fought well. The question that we need to ask here is why are we trying to do that, and how much thought has gone into the second and third order effects of placing women in units like infantry, special forces, armor, artillery, what we call our frontline combat units. This is being done for the wrong reasons. It is being done at the wrong time, and it's being done without any consideration for what it ultimately means over the long term. So I'm very, very concerned about it.
Well, you mentioned... So what did Leon Panetta, the outgoing Secretary of Defense, do exactly? I mean, you mentioned women are already in combat. What was the significant announcement that he made?
There are about 235 specialties across the services that women are not allowed to be in right now. As I said earlier, let's just take infantry units, for example, or special forces units. Women are not allowed to serve in those units below the brigade level, which means they could be in one of the staff positions or support position at the brigade level, but not down at the infantry battalion level, which is where the rubber meets the road. And what Leon Panetta has done is he's opened it up to females in those kind of units. Now, there are many things wrong with this, Tim, but I just want you to consider this. Those infantry units, those special forces units, they go out on extended patrols. They're in combat for extended periods of time. They live out of a rucksack. Their whole focus is defeating the enemy, closing with and defeating the enemy, and protecting, the lives of their buddies. That is no place for a female, where there is no privacy, where everything you do is exposed to the other members of that organization. And there will be so few females that will want to do this or that will qualify to do this if they maintain the standards, that what you're going to wind up doing is putting a burden on small unit commanders to try and figure out how they're going to provide privacy for the one or two females they'll have in these units at a time when their focus has to be closing with and destroying the enemy and protecting their troops. This is not well thought out. It's purely political.
We're talking to Lieutenant General Jerry Boykin, retired Executive Vice President of the Family Research Council. He wrote a column on this called "Women in Combat: A Dangerous Experiment." They can find this column you wrote at the FRC website.
Yes, that's correct.
Okay, Family Research Council, FRC.org, written by Jerry Boykin. Ed?
General, I want to let our listeners know and those who are watching online, some of these articles you've written, you do not disparage women. In fact, you mentioned Colonel Martha McSally, now retired, the first female U.S. Air Force combat pilot flying the A-10 Warthog in Iraq and Afghanistan. And you talk about also the fact, what I appreciated about the article was that you talk about the fact that without these linear battlefields now, anybody, even in a support capacity, can get hit by an IED or get ambushed. So in a sense, women to that extent have already been in combat too. But in talking about the difficulties of maintaining discipline and focus when you have, and this is why I mentioned that you don't disparage women, a distraction of having a woman in your unit, in your foxhole, is it not? And I don't want to be insulting to those who believe women can be just as courageous or anything like that, but is it not ignoring human nature to believe that 5 guys and 1 woman in a foxhole or in a small unit out in the field for 30 days, that they're not going to behave differently than if it was 6 men? I mean, is that just not ignoring human nature?
Well, of course it's ignoring human nature, and there are a couple of factors there. One is God placed in us as men a protective nature when it comes to the female. Now, that does not resonate with the feminist movement, but nevertheless, it is true. It's the way we're created, and I've seen it. I've seen it over and over. And when you have a female there, the male is instinctively protective of her and watching out for her. Secondly, you still have the physical attraction. It doesn't matter what environment it's in, you still have the physical attraction and the problems that creates. And that physical attraction goes both ways. It's not just men preying on women, which is the way some would interpret that. It goes both ways. And you know, guys, I will tell you that in combat, particularly in combat when you have lost a teammate, either to a severe wound or ultimately to death, it is one of the most emotional things that you can imagine, and you look for solace. That's why you see so many photographs of young Marines sitting down, one with his head on his buddy's shoulder, or buried in his squad leader's chest. Those are men. Those are rugged, tough men. But they've experienced a tragic loss, and you seek solace. Now imagine what that can turn into in those conditions, in those circumstances, when you have mixed gender. Let me go to another point, and that is this. Biologically, women have about 20% less lung capacity and 40% less muscle mass. You will find a woman that can meet the standards and endure the rigors of carrying an 80-pound load, at 10,000 feet through the mountains of Afghanistan. But they're unusual. But even those that can do it, research has shown that the toll on them far exceeds the toll on the man who is up doing that kind of rigorous activity. So what are we doing? We are hurting the woman more than we are the man by putting those kind of demands on her. And then I'll throw out a third point to you guys. Has anybody thought through the issue of once we open these slots up to women that we're then going to have to force women to register for selective service, meaning that they could be drafted? Or a parallel issue is we're going to start forcing them into those units because there won't be enough volunteers. There won't be enough women once they really open the gates to this. There won't be enough women that are going to want to do this. Why would they want to do this? There are not a lot of men that want to do this, to be honest with you, once they get in and find out what it's all about. Now, of course, the other side of that is there are many who wouldn't do anything else either, but they will start forcing women into these kind of units against their will, and that's all that's going to do is destroy the fiber of our military.
Mm. Hey, we got a couple minutes left here. What are your thoughts? What do you make of President Obama now in year 5 going to Israel?
I have prayed that this would be productive. I am one who is very skeptical of the motives. I believe that the past performance would show a favoritism to the Palestinians, and again, Palestinian is a misleading term, but I really hope that there's something substantive in terms of support for Israel to include a commitment that we will stop Iran from following through on their program to develop a nuclear warhead. I hope, but I'm skeptical.
Yeah. Well, listen, Jerry, thanks so much for being our guest today. We appreciate it very much. We appreciate all you guys do there at the Family Research Council in Washington, standing for the traditional values that made America great, and we're glad to partner with you.
Thank you, Tim, and it's just such a pleasure to be partnered with you guys, and thanks for all you're doing. God bless you.
All right, very good. Glad to have General Boykin with us today. Again, the article I was referencing, which we had him on to talk about, is called Women in Combat, A Dangerous Experiment, which is available at their website, frc.org.
Yeah, you can just, this is a man I have a great deal of respect for, not only because of his long years of service to this country in the military, 36 years, but he is a committed Christian and has taken a lot of flack from the politically correct culture in this country when he has spoken out on social issues.
All right, folks, thanks for joining us today. We appreciate it as always. We hope you learned something and continue to pray for our country and continue, as the Bible says, to pray for those in authority. We'll see you next time.